Welcome into another edition of the Commitment Issues podcast. I'm Woody Wommack, joined only this week by Nick Krueger from lovely Austin, Texas. Nick, how's it going today?
Going well after the Minnesota Vikings and New York Giants did me a huge solid last night. I come up 2-0 again in fantasy football for a combined 7-1 start to the season, so I'm feeling real happy.
Well, we all know that I am not participating in fantasy football this league, as nobody invited me to a league. Really depressing for me. So, I guess I'll just have to play daily fantasy on Yahoo Sports. Speaking of selfless promotion, be sure to contact us, rivalspodcast@yahoo.com. Tweet us at rivalspodcast. We'd be happy to talk about topics you suggest. And please, please, please subscribe on iTunes. I know a lot of people listen to this show on YouTube. We are available on iTunes. Just search for Commitment Issues, and we'll be downloaded right to your phone every week. We're also available now on Google Play, which is a new addition to the arsenal, Stitcher, TuneIn, whatever else you got. Name a podcast app, we're on there, and if we're not, let me know, and I'll make sure it happens. So let's jump right in, Nick. We're riding without Rob Cassidy, who flew to New York to watch the Mets lose to the Giants, which, an interesting decision by him to do that with me knowing what the outcome of the game is already. But guess who else? Guess who else flew the coop this week or this past week, Nick? Blake Barnett.
Wow,
former 5-star. He gone. He decides to leave Alabama almost in the middle of the night. He was the backup quarterback. Actually, started the year as the starter. When you saw that news, what kind of went through your head, knowing that you'd seen Barnett play quite a bit and we're familiar with him from his days as a Rivals camper?
Well, this is a theme that we've all been talking about on the podcast now for some time. The possibility of quarterbacks transferring and the circumstances that might lead them to do so. Obviously Barnett came in there. I believe it was a year ahead of Jalen Hurts. Wasn't able to win the starting job ahead of him. And, Jalen, honestly, I had mentioned to you before, he was a guy that we had seen in Rivals Camp Series events prior to him committing to Alabama. And I wouldn't have thought, coming out of high school that he would have been the quarterback to supplant Barnett in terms of both of their career trajectories there at Alabama. And, you and I have talked to Barnett a few times, seen him at a couple of events that we've hosted, and he seemed like a pretty cool guy and easy to get along with, and somebody that would do pretty well to roll with the punches, in my opinion. But listen, the more that I see quarterbacks transferring and trying to find better opportunities for themselves, especially at the college level, the less bad I feel for them. I mean, your opportunity to get as much out of your college career as you can is very, very small, especially when you're a quarterback, and there's so much on the line for you on the other end once you complete your college career if you're successful at it. So, he owes it to himself to give himself the best opportunity to play and to be successful. And if Alabama wasn't it for it, then so be it.
Well, one of the reasons it made a lot of news was, not only because he's basically one hit away. He was the backup. They both of those young guys had outplayed some of the older players that were highly ranked. David Cornwell, I believe, was a 5-star on some other sites. We had him ranked relatively high. And the other kid, man, I can't even remember his name, from Utah.
Oh,
Cooper Bateman. Yeah. Yeah, so a couple of guys that you and I weren't very fond of in terms of their ability, but did finish, I believe, as 4-stars. He leaves now in the middle of the year, and the word is because he thinks he can get in maybe to another school and kind of cheat the system. There have been some talks about this behind the scene. I know with SEC players, especially guys who enroll early, that if you leave 3 or 4 games into the year, you can then enroll in a JUCO out west, take 2 or 3 terms quickly, get that associate's degree, and be on your way to enroll and not have to sit out a full season. So it's an interesting loophole. We'll see if he can make it happen. I've heard players, I know several SEC players behind the scenes have asked me in the past, what are the rules? Yeah. And I'm like, listen, I'm not a rules expert on transferring, but Barnett sneaks out the back door. And I kind of wanted to tell a story. I mean, I think it was that year in Baltimore. Was it 2014? We were in Baltimore. Barnett was there. He came there, and he had just decommitted from Notre Dame. And I think everyone assumed he was bound for Oregon. I think it was a done deal. And we were riding on the elevator with him, I believe. And he even said, because I was trying to talk him into committing there at the event, and he said, "Oh, I'm gonna wait a little bit, but it should be only be a matter of time for I commit." Then he goes and visits Alabama and flips, and as it turns out, obviously that wasn't the right choice for him. Oregon's gone with some JUCO, or not even JUCO, FCS quarterbacks transferring in. You have to think Barnett would have been in a position to be the starter there had he made that decision. So, it's amazing that just one little change of mind, one extra visit can change your whole trajectory. And now Barnett, a guy that we ranked as a 5-star and someone that we thought was, a real dynamic playmaker, ends up failing to pan out. And I don't think it was because of him. I think, like you said, Hurts, seems to be a fit in what Alabama does offensively more now than Barnett was. And that's the way the old cookie crumbles.
Well,
So,
and two, if I could, just to continue on, but when he was ranked as a 5-star a couple years ago, this is before I had assumed full on analyst duty, so I wasn't necessarily responsible for ranking kids myself, and he wasn't necessarily. I don't think anybody would have suggested he was the most polished passer, but think about it: if he would have went to Oregon, or if he would have went to Notre Dame, and this would have been his situation this season, do we really think he would have been any more successful there this year with those teams? Then I mean, he might still be finding himself in this situation, wanting to cut and run and go for. He probably needed some more seasoning as a passer because he wasn't. Yeah, I mean, if the 7-on-7 performance in the 5-star challenge was any indication, I mean, remember his team went winless in group play. It wasn't until they reseeded and everybody made the playoffs in the 7-on-7 that he turned it on and did well. I mean, he wasn't on the entire time. He wasn't the best quarterback there, and I think probably a little bit more playing and a little bit more seasoning and more coaching and more opportunity for him would be the best thing. And but if he would have went to Notre Dame or Oregon this season, who knows? I mean, it might be David Carr syndrome or something like that for him, and he might have been stunted from the start anyway.
yeah, that's true. I guess you could never know how things shake out. He's leaving town. One man that's coming into town for old Alabama is Dylan Moses, Rivals 100 linebacker, Rivals 100 athlete, I believe we have him ranked. He's played a lot of running back over the years, and he's a guy that made national headlines a couple of years ago when he got offered by Alabama and LSU when he was still in middle school. He's been, I mean, I swear he's been to a Rivals, probably 10 Rivals camps over his high school career between 5-star challenges and regional camps and things of that nature. So finally he makes the decision. Everyone assumed he was bound for LSU. He's from Louisiana, but boy, the uncertainty there. And I was told Alabama kind of put the screws to him on that visit and said, look, we're taking X number of linebackers. They had him and Jacob Phillips there at the same time. And they told him, look, you commit now or you can hit the road. So he ends up committing, canceling all his other visits. He was supposed to be in Miami this weekend. Do you think this saga's over, Nick, or do you think we're still, he's supposed to enroll early, but you think that the Dylan Moses chapter's finally closed and this is going to be it for him?
Yeah, I think so. Well, is he still wanting to play running back? Is that still on the table for him, or
No, he wants to play linebacker. I think the thinking here with us is that he's better at running back, but so I guess he's going there as a linebacker.
Okay. Well, here's the deal. So I know that with Les Miles out of the picture at LSU, there was probably a swell of optimism that he might consider coming back to Texas and playing for the Longhorns. But we'll touch on them a little bit later. But we all know that scenario is a little bit in flux right now, possibly, and Alabama had to have known that, right? They have all the leverage in this situation. They're a top program, wins national championships, or in the conversation for national championships every single year. They were in on his recruitment from the beginning, and they play hardball like this with recruits on visits. This isn't a foreign strategy to them. So to have him on campus, knowing that LSU is off the table with Les gone in all likelihood, and Texas being up in the air, they had all the opportunity to, like you said, put the screws to him. And, it seems, I mean, I think it makes sense for both parties, don't you?
Yeah, I think it does. I think I was surprised he ended it early. It just shows, sometimes fans don't realize behind the scenes that, these coaches tell you, hey, I don't care if you're a 5-star or whatever, we're only going to take this certain number of players and you got to do it now. We're not playing games. So it's interesting that Alabama's in that position to where they can just decide that, hey, we're taking this guy and that's that. And sure enough, it works out for them. I wonder, we're still high on Moses. I just think, I personally still think he's better off at running back, but you know, obviously Alabama doesn't usually take guys and move them positions in terms of offense and defense. So I think they're going to give him a shot at linebacker. But if something tells me, he's had a dramatic recruitment. I mean, he's a pretty low key kid, but I think it'll be interesting to see if he goes to Alabama and is willing to sit for a year or two, a la Barnett. Is he willing to kind of wait his turn, or does he get a little restless and want to jump ship? So we're watching old Dylan Moses. Something tells me he's going to be in our lives for several more years to come. We talked about LSU, and this weekend, LSU loses their first commitment since Les Miles was fired. Steven Guidry, who's a talented JUCO wide receiver out of Mississippi, he's actually from Louisiana. He was a guy that maybe had some grade concerns coming out of high school, bounced around. I had a chance to talk to him when I went to some camp in Mississippi. And he was a funny kid because he actually committed to LSU and then released his top 5 a week later. And I did an interview with him, and he just repeatedly talked about how stupid he was and he kept calling himself a stupid kid. And he's like, I'm so dumb. And he was really down on himself for putting out that top 5 list after he committed. So now he's back on the market. I have to think this is going to be the first of many, right? I mean, what's the vibe you're getting from the Texas kids? I mean, this is going to go on for another 2 months. I mean, so do you think it's going to keep happening?
Well, my vibe on the Texas kids hasn't changed much since our last conversation. I don't know if you can tell through the broadcast or not. I'm a little under the weather, playing with flu-like symptoms on this podcast right now. So I did go to one game.
Maybe you had a short in your microphone.
Yeah. I went to the only game I went to last week was to go see top 10 player in the country Jeffrey Okudah. LSU not really in the mix for him, so I've kind of been detached from that scenario. But really, when you take a look at you and I had conversed about LSU's following game from the LSU decision up against Missouri. I had thought that Missouri had a good opportunity to go in there and catch LSU with the coaching change and a banged up Leonard Fournette. And what does LSU turn around and do? They go up and put their highest point total of the season and their best defensive point total of the season as well, win 42-7 against Missouri. If there was ever something to immediately give a little shot in the arm of confidence, to the recruits looking at this team and wondering, where their level of confidence should be as far as their commitment goes to LSU. I mean, what a performance, I mean, I don't think, I still think we gotta kind of wait and see how things play out with Ed Orgeron. Obviously, we know that he gets along real well with recruits. He's a guy that they like in Louisiana, a guy with head coaching experience, and he's obviously, probably playing for his next job as a head coach at LSU too. He wants it. And so we're just gonna have to wait and see how it plays out. I don't know how quickly he's been able to reach out to some of these committed kids, given all the turnover that's been going on and all the preparation that he's had to do on a short period of time. So there's still going to be a little bit of a window where he's going to have to play some catch up with that. So we're just going to have to wait and see. As long as they don't lose to Southern Miss and South Alabama, they still might be in pretty good footing with some of these guys.
Yeah, I just worry that the uncertainty. Would they really hire Orgeron? I think they're set to make a national search just the way that athletic department has behaved. So I think, short of him beating Alabama or going to the, somehow making it to the SEC championship game or something, I think he's going to be gone.
But they wanted, I mean, going back to last year, they created the environment of wanting to fire Les Miles and couldn't bring themselves to do it when, like we talked about last week, it was their decision. Like Rob said, they could have beat Alabama and fired Les Miles if they wanted to, just because they could. And if they put themselves in that situation again, LSU runs the table and wins in convincing fashion as they did this past week, hypothetically speaking, they're going to find themselves in the same spot that they were in with Les Miles a year ago, where they can't fire Ed Orgeron, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think perhaps the athletic director, and it may be a clean house situation. I'm not sure there. We'll be watching that very closely, and I think a lot of recruits are too. I think this is kind of killing their recruiting right now. Like I said, Guidry's out, and I think there could be several more guys to follow him out the door, depending on how things shake out. Now, one program that's been having a ton of success in Texas this recruiting cycle is Iowa. They do a nice job of building their team with some guys from Texas. They kind of identify talent down there as well. Last year they had a huge season. We're on the verge of making the college football playoff, and then this year, boy, off to a rough start. They're 3-2. They've got a couple of big-time commits. Chevin Callaway, who's a guy I really like as a defensive back down there. Had a chance to see him. Eno Benjamin, of course, the running back that you're a big fan of. Callaway out taking visits. He was at Nebraska this week. Is this slow start to the year? I mean, obviously we know their coach, Kirk Ferentz, is not going anywhere based on the 50-year contract he signed recently. But are they in danger of losing some of these guys or what?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think Callaway is definitely on flip watch. What people have to remember too with Iowa is last season was somewhat of an anomaly, right? I mean, they kind of came out of left field, and they kind of won ugly too, if I recall, with their games. And the past couple seasons, I think the last two recruiting classes, they've only had one 4-star kid commit. So all these kids that they've got committed in this class that are 4 stars. You're talking to Benjamin, like you mentioned. Callaway is another 4-star defensive end. AJ Epenza, as I might be saying his name wrong, and I
Oh yeah,
apologize.
Epineza. I think is how you say
Epineza.
it.
Those are the 3 4 stars, and they're gonna have to do a little bit of work to keep them. I think Benjamin's safe to stay. Um, I think quarterback Peyton Manziel from Texas is safe to stay. Gavin Holmes, another receiver, I think is probably safe to stay. Matt Hankins, could probably go either way. There's some other teams involved with his recruitment. They just got another commitment, Bo Corrales, just north of me out in Georgetown. He's a new commitment. I don't imagine he'd be looking to flip so quickly, but yeah, I mean, I think Callaway is really the guy to watch. We know that he just took a visit to Nebraska the past weekend, and I think he was looking at some other schools. Obviously, some other of the in-state schools have been involved in his recruitment as well. So they're really going to have to do some work on him. I know Benjamin is relatively close to him and is probably in his ears, trying to hold things together. But I mean, if they don't start turning things around and winning some of these games back, it's going to be a tough sell. For some of these kids that have offers from schools that are with more attractive records coming out of this season.
Well, and when you build a program with, like you said, some guys that are 3 stars or under the radar, sometimes you really hit on those, especially when you develop them and they get older, and then maybe you have a 1 or 2 year push where they're redshirt juniors or seniors, and all of a sudden you've got guys that have been in the program for 5 years, and you put it all together like they did last year. Of course, you lose some guys, you lose some talent, and then next thing you got to kind of build it back up again. So if they can hang on to that and kind of get some of these 4-star guys coming on a more regular basis, I think that's how they could maybe avoid these peaks and valleys. Boy, speaking of the state of Texas, Nick, we had a whole episode at the beginning of the year where we celebrated Texas. Rob Cassidy, who's not on the phone, he said, "Let's hold the phone on Texas being back." You and I were ready to celebrate. Now, lo and behold, here we are. They're struggling. We got reports that Charlie Strong's probably going to be gone at the end of the year. Now he's taken over as defensive coordinator, demoting the defensive coordinator they have. What's going on down there? Is it over? Do the ship be sinking?
Yeah, I mean it's really tough. I mean Texas. I was optimistic that Texas could go up to Oklahoma State and get a win there in Stillwater this week as well. And obviously that didn't end up happening. And you look at the changes that they're making out there defensively. I'm not so sure what kind of changes they might make personnel wise on the field, but defensively, you're talking about Charlie Strong taking over the play calling on defense, and Vance Bedford, former defensive coordinator, focusing solely on the defensive backs. But that's really, the defensive backs have kind of been a big problem of the defense. So to have him focus solely on that, I mean, you're talking about a team that's given up almost 65% completion percentage to opponents this season, just shy of 275 yards passing a game. So, it's going to be tough to see what kind of changes they can make schematically in a short period of time. They had the bye week to prepare for Oklahoma State, and you're talking in 3 out of their 4 games have given up around the 50 burger per game. So, they need to turn things around quick. But Charlie Strong knows that. I mean, this isn't his first go round with the dark clouds starting to form over the stadium here in Austin. So, I don't know. What would you do?
Well, I personally, I wouldn't fire him. Now, if they make a backdoor deal that says, "Hey, we can get Herman," okay, maybe you do it. But it's like he's got the offense turned around. You have a true freshman quarterback. You just had one of the best recruiting classes you've had in quite some time. They went out and got all the free agents from the Baylor situation. And I'm just thinking, there's so much young talent on the team, and maybe that's one of the reasons they want to get rid of him, because you say, hey, look, he's stocked the cupboards again. Now we can get somebody in to get us to the next level. I think it's tough. I think personally I would give him another year, but that's me. I know people are restless in Texas, and I understand that. It's been a long time, since they were really dominant, and they should be dominant based on the talent that they have down there in terms of players. But boy,
Well,
I
here's
still
the
think
deal.
if
They have Oklahoma this week, correct?
yeah,
So, so this is so you tell me what kind of cocktail these ingredients these ingredients form, right? So you have a situation where you had some coaching turnover in the offseason. You win your first game against a big program that doesn't turn out to be that good. Here we are 4 games in the season, and we're talking about anytime you have a situation where somebody at the top is assuming autonomous responsibility, they put their own backs against the wall, and things rarely go north from there. So if they don't win this game against Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is going to be super motivated to win, right? Because they've played a tough schedule. This is obviously a rivalry game, and they're not having the season that they wanted either. This isn't shaping up real well for Texas, and if they don't win if they don't win this game, if they come out with a performance like they did last week, with 2 weeks to prepare for that game, if you're the AD at Texas, I mean, you're not feeling too good about the Charlie Strong train right now, right?
yeah. No, well, I like I said, I understand how the fans feel. I just think just give him one more year, baby. We saw when Derek Mason took over as the defensive coordinator at Vanderbilt, their defense got a lot better. He was a defensive guy, of course. Charlie is too, but if I had to wager on it, I would say that he's going to be fired. But if I was saying what I think they should keep him. Unless, like I said, if you can get Herman to make an agreement on behind closed doors, which that's how these coaching searches work, then maybe you do it. Then maybe you make the move for sure. But if not, I think it's going to be a tough year with the coaching market. And just because you fire Charlie, I mean, doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get somebody good, especially because Herman could stay, or he could go to LSU, or he could go to USC. The Oregon job might be open, and I don't think anyone's going to pick Oregon over Texas. But I'm just saying, the more job openings you have, the harder it is to fill, because there's only so many quality candidates out there.
Just when you guys thought you were off the hook with no Rob Cassidy on this week's show, he comes through with a commitment issues conversation, an interview this week with Georgia Tech head coach Paul Johnson.
Joined now by Georgia Tech head coach Paul Johnson. How are things in Atlanta, Paul?
Well, they're going okay. We'd like to. We've had a couple of pretty rough weeks with Clemson and then Miami, but got a chance to play again this Saturday, so that's the great thing about college football.
And people think of Georgia Tech, they think of a lot of different things. One of those is kind of the offense that you guys run there, that flex bone spread or the triple option or whatever you really want to call it. You hear a lot about knuckleballers in baseball that kind of all know each other, but from coaches that kind of study this offense and know this offense, is there kind of a fraternity of you guys that talk about it, or is that kind of been made too much of?
Well, I don't know about a fraternity. I think other than us here, probably the academies run what we run. Now, everybody in college football just about now has some form of option, and a lot of the gun spread stuff is pretty much similar to what we do. They just do it out of the gun with zone blocking as opposed to what we do. But the guys at Navy and Army are now both coach for me, and Kenny actually played for us in Hawaii, so, and Ivan. So it's those three schools, and then, Troy Calhoun, who's at Air Force, played there and was part of Coach DeBerry's group. So I don't know about a fraternity, but everybody knows everybody.
How's recruiting to such kind of a niche kind of offense like that? Do you have to recruit a different kind of player, or does it affect your guys' strategy anyway running that thing, or is it just pretty much still trying to get the best athletes that you can get?
No, I really don't think it affects much. I think that what happens is you try to recruit the best players. If you look at it by position, the offensive line, we have to have guys that hopefully can move a little bit. Sometimes we'll sacrifice size for that, but other than that, it's just good players. I mean, our quarterback now didn't play in a system. He was in a spread offense in high school. In fact, every quarterback that's on our roster was. All the other recruits, the same with receivers, the same with the slot backs. You may not have to recruit as big a backs. It gives you a little chance because they're a cross between receiver, running backs. But you recruit the best players. It's not a whole lot different.
The way that Georgia Tech's set up academically and all that, how much does that affect recruiting for you guys as far as the kind of players you can take there, because it is such kind of a unique school in FBS football?
It certainly has an effect. I think that it's a world-class education here, so that you, first of all, you have to find guys who are interested in that type of thing. They want to get a world-class education, and then you have to find guys that can stay here. More so than getting in is, if you bring guys in here who can't handle the workload and can't do the schoolwork, they're going to make you miserable and them. So, and with APR the way it is now, in the last 10 to 15 years they added APR, which changes everything. So you pretty much have to have guys that can do the work to get in here. And then we have a little bit of a limited curriculum, but there's things that people can study if they want to come and play here in Atlanta and get a world-class education.
You're one of a handful of coaches out there that didn't play college football on any level. How did you kind of break in, and what was kind of your big break in coaching?
Well, when I finished college, I went back and coached at my high school where I'd played. And from there, I ended up at Lees McRae Junior College and really figured I would go back and be a high school coach. Maybe at my high school be the head coach. And it just kind of worked out. I ended up at Georgia Southern with Coach Russell, and my first 2 years there I coached on defense. And then I got moved over. He asked me to be the offensive coordinator in 1985. And fortunately we had a kid named Tracy Ham, and he was a really good player, and we won back-to-back national championships. And then I went to the University of Hawaii, and we had a lot of success, won our league, played in the Holiday Bowl. From there to Navy, and then as a head coach, I've basically been hired back at every school that I'd coached at before, with the exception of Georgia Tech. I'd never been here.
Hawaii is another interesting situation as far as recruiting goes. I talked to Norm Chow when he was the coach there, and he kind of said that you have to guard against kids just taking official visits out there just to take them that aren't really interested in the school. How hard is it to get kids out to Hawaii when you were coaching there?
Well, it's difficult. It's easy to get them to visit, but it's more difficult. I think you have to find a profile that fits. It's like any school. Every school has a profile. I think that, sometimes people put a lot of emphasis on the guy who's recruiting. I think it has a lot more to do with the school profile. If you look, for the most part, most schools that recruit the same type of guys over and over and over. It's and like in Hawaii, you had to have a profile. Maybe kids from single parents or kids whose parents worked for the airlines that could fly for free, or somebody who was looking for adventure that just, that wanted to travel and do some things. And then you supplemented it with trying to keep the best kids from Hawaii there, which was also hard to do. But at times, when we were really good, we had some of the better kids from Hawaii.
You said every school has a profile. What's Georgia Tech's current profile, do you think, as far as recruiting goes?
Well, I think that the profile is for young guys who want the total package. They want to play football at the highest level, but they're very interested in the education part. Where we sit, we're surrounded by bigger stadiums, bigger those kind of things. So if a guy's looking to, go to the 90,000 fans and all those kind of things, then we're probably not going to be in the picture. If he's looking to, what academic programs are the best and what has a better chance to set him up, for 20, 30 years after school, then we feel like we can certainly compete with whoever.
You've been there almost a decade now, which is almost crazy to think about in today's day and age, especially with guys like us, Miles being let go. What do you make of kind of the culture that's become in coaching, where it seems like nobody really gets much time and everybody's on a short leash? What do you kind of make of that? And do you think that's changed in the last 5-6 years, or do you think it's kind of always been that way?
Oh, no, it's definitely changed in the last little bit. I think that everybody has an expectation level, and, sometimes it's hard to match the expectation level. And when you're there for a period of time, if you're not winning national championships or whatever their expectation is, then it becomes convenient or whatever. You want to try something new. It's just the way life works. And so I think that what happens is, like Mark won 10 games a year at Georgia, but they had not won a SEC championship in a little bit or a national championship, and their fan base thought they could do better. And that's what happens. I guess the same thing that happened with Les. I mean, he won a lot of games and did that, but that's just the nature of the beast now.
Why do you think it's gotten worse in the last 5 years? Do you think there are any factors that have contributed to that, or you think it's just, a bigger microscope for everybody?
There's probably factors that contribute. I mean, I think that there's a lot more media attention, social media, and a lot more media attention and that kind of thing. And to be truthful, I think that when, the salaries got to where they are, that for whatever reason, if you make a certain salary, I think people feel like sometimes they can say whatever they want about you or whatever. It's like, so it's become a big business. There's a lot of money involved in it, and it is big business.
Now, if I don't ask you about this, I get a letter from my boss. I at least got to ask. There were some remarks that you made that kind of got made a big deal out of about commitment to football and all of that this week.
And it was totally blown out of proportion. And like typical with the media, what was said and what got reported wasn't the same thing. Basically, what I said was that if you have expectations, you have to have a commitment that equals the expectations. I never said that we were supposed to have the same facilities that Clemson had, or that we couldn't beat teams, or anything else. I said, when asked about Clemson, I said, well, do you think we have the same things they do? And the guy said, no. And I said, well, there you go. That wasn't saying. What I was talking about is we need to have the same commitment to winning that those programs have.
Sure. No, yeah. And I know how that happens. I mean, stuff does get kind of twisted in the media.
So it just kind of took a life of its own. And then, of course, when one guy runs with something, then somebody else takes a part of it and runs with it. And then it turns into, well, the coach said we could never beat Clemson or whatever. It's like we beat Clemson 2 years ago. I think since I've been here, we're 5-5 against them. But what I was making the point is, if your expectation is to play on that level, then you have to have a commitment that equals playing on that level.
Right. Before I get you out of here, I just want to ask you some non-football stuff that we've been doing with other coaches. What's Paul Johnson's favorite film? If you're watching a movie, what are you picking?
Gosh, I don't know. I very seldom go to the movies. Probably some kind of old Western. Really, I enjoy watching those.
Like Clint Eastwood style movies, something like that?
Oh, even before then, John Wayne.
Oh, man.
Back to whatever. I enjoy those kind of movies.
What about the iPod? Are you much of a music listener or no?
I don't even have an iPod.
Really? No music on your phone? Nothing like that?
No, I've got Pandora on my phone.
Hey, you and Bill Snyder both.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I don't want to take off any more of your time. Thanks so much.
All right, you're welcome.
You better hope that mediocre money that you make at Rivals is good enough for you for the rest of your life.
It's time now for the tweet of the week. Well, I got myself in all kinds of trouble on on Saturday night, late night Saturday night. I was out Ubering people around at all hours of the night, and I saw, Derek Tyson, who works for ESPN, friend of the show. He tweeted he tweeted an interesting shot at St. Thomas Aquinas after they lost to Bishop Gorman. He tweeted, "Congrats, Bishop Gorman! You just beat an average Florida team, right?" And now we would not consider St. Thomas an average team. I don't think. I think they'd probably be at least above average, depending on your grading system. They got a ton of talent on that team. And boy, Derek was quickly under fire. We saw him he was just getting hammered by people from South Florida. And no offense to Derek, but he's not exactly the sharpest with the comebacks. I mean, he was kind of keeping it classy, unlike myself, who goes straight for the jugular in these situations. And so this guy was making fun of him, and because Derek is bald, he was taking shots at him, for being bald and stupid and blah blah blah. At the real Manny S is his Twitter handle. So I jumped in and decided to take a look at what kind of material I had to maybe make fun of Manny. And he has a pinned tweet talking about how he officially got the job. He's blessed and eternally grateful to be working for the Prada Corporation under Team Mew Mew.
Like the purse company?
Yeah, the purse company, exactly.
What's Team Moo Moo?
I don't know.
Oh.
That remains to be seen.
That's too highbrow for me. I don't know what that's about.
Right. Well, so anyway, he was talking about how, he could do Derek's job better, this, that, and the third. He's since deleted the tweet, so I can't know exactly what he said. But I quoted his tweet, and I said, "We'll call you if we need a purse," in reference to the Prada situation. And he replied with the tweet of the week, and he said, "Just because I make twice what you make and you're 2 times older than me, don't do this. You're a washed human being.
Wow.
You add 0 to the world."
Wait, you're a what to the world? I'm sorry, I was reacting to the washed.
You add 0 to the world.
Oh, well.
So,
I think we both can agree that's correct. So.
Yeah, needless to say, the conversation went on from there, and I don't think you need to know who won the Twitter beefs, as Manny has since deleted several of the tweets after, I don't mess around on Twitter.
You've had a lot of practice, that's for sure.
Right, exactly.
If Nick Cannon came up with an MTV show where it was Twitter insults back and forth, you'd be the reigning champion week in and week out.
That's true. Wild and Out Twitter edition. It'd be good. So big shout to Manny. I actually didn't even end up blocking him, which is a rarity because he wasn't funny enough. But either way, sorry, Manny. You're the tweet of the week. So.
Oh, but you know what? Hey, if I could add, I wasn't even thinking about this until you brought it up. The impetus of this whole exchange. Friend of the podcast, Tate Martell, comes up with a tweet that says the greatest moment in his high school football career, and it was when he. I didn't watch the game. Was it like a toss play or a handoff or whatever to win that game?
They won in overtime. Yeah, they won in overtime. They went for 2 and won the game.
So he takes the video clip from the TV broadcast and does the slow build of "My Heart Will Go On" from Celine Dion. And right when the running back punches it into the end zone, it's the climax of the song.
Oh, wow.
And then the rest of the video is the downtrodden St. Thomas Aquinas shots of, the guys with their, on one knee, helmet on the ground, in disbelief that they lost the game, and Celine is just belting it out. It was so funny.
I'm gonna have to look that up. Do you think Tate did that edit himself?
Oh yeah, definitely. No, he's a Twitter wizard. I mean, actually, in the aforementioned Nick Cannon Twitter back and forth show, you versus Tate would be a good season finale, perhaps.
Yeah, Tate has some good ones.
Although it would probably be more like how you would make fun of him and how he would deflect it. It would probably be the back and forth rather than him making. But who knows? I mean, maybe I'm not giving him enough credit.
I mean, I'm ripe for mockery. So if that's the problem, if you can find the right material, it's easy to make fun of me. I'm gonna watch that Tate video. I enjoyed Tate. I enjoyed when he put the state of Nevada over Texas or whatever. He then deleted that tweet, but a lot of coming out of that Bishop Gorman St. Thomas Aquinas game. Great high school game. It's on ESPN3. Probably you can still check it out. I would highly advise doing so if you want to see a ton of really good players. So now it's time for our game of the week. This week, I guess we should go over last week. Last week, Clemson and Louisville. Louisville was a 2-point favorite. Nick, you win against the home team, and you got burned. Deshaun Watson and company win by 6, and we don't ever go against Deshaun. Clemson's defense is some serious, as the kids would say. They're really not messing around. And guess what? Brent Venables may be in a position to get a head coaching job as well. So keep an eye on that, as he might be a guy. This week we've got Tennessee at Texas A&M. The Aggies a 6.5-point favorite, which is a big number considering Tennessee undefeated. They had that miracle victory the other day. I don't know if you ended up watching that. Our boy Lorenzo Carter stuck in quicksand, couldn't make the play to deflect the ball as he just stood there. I highly advise people watching the long view of Jawan Jennings running from 50 yards away and the amount of steps Lorenzo takes. It was a tough game for him. Tough loss. It's conflicting emotions back and forth. Rico McGraw with a costly celebration penalty, even though he wasn't in the game. It was really a roller coaster of emotions. But what do you think? I think I'm going to go Texas A&M, and I'm going to take the points. I think they win by more than a touchdown. I know the Tennessee fans will probably kill me for that one, but they're rolling. And I really like their offense, and I think, with Tennessee's injuries on defense, it's a chance for the Aggies to pounce.
No, I'm with you on that one. I tried to do the hot hand, the new hotness strategy last week, and got burned by it. You take a team that hasn't had the consistent success that Louisville had. They come into a rough road environment, a nighttime Clemson crowd, frenzied. With the top 3 team in the country or top team in the country, and they just couldn't hold their composure. And I think Tennessee has really been playing on borrowed time here with the late game comebacks and the miracles, and just playing one half of football essentially. And Texas A&M, clearly one of the toughest environments to play in all of college football out there at Kyle Field. It's going to be loud and raucous, and it's going to be real tough for Tennessee to kind of that sort of rally back into this game. I think there's just going to be too much of Myles Garrett, too much of that defensive line coming in and harassing Josh Dobbs into making some of those throws that I know that you enjoy watching him toss throughout the course of the game. So I'm with you. I think Texas A&M wins this convincingly.
Yeah, it's kind of a body blow game. I know several people were injured for Texas A&M this past week, but I think they kind of rested them up, and now they're ready to go because they got to play Tennessee and Alabama back to back. So it might be a body blow game for the Vols, where they've just been taking so many hits. They're in a brutal 4-game stretch right now. So we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised with the way Tennessee has been winning these games. It may be one of those seasons where they're kind of destined to win. So now, Nick, I want to bring in a new segment, one of our favorite sayings. That's on me, Coach.
But if we want to stop, it's on us. It's on me. It's not. It's not on you.
And that this is an expression that we often hear coaches and players use back and forth with each other, with coaches saying stuff is on them. Of course, Bill Kramer famously used to say at every single game that they lost, head coach of Naples High, where Nick and I used to work down at the Naples Daily News, he would always say every loss was on him, and the players would often say it was on them and not on the coach. So guess what? This one is on me, no doubt about it. Last week I said Jake Browning was from the state of Washington. I was wrong. He's from California. I don't know why I thought he was from Washington. Maybe because his last name's Browning. There's the clothing company, the hunting business.
That's probably it.
He's from Folsom, California. He was a 4-star coming out a couple of years ago. Actually featured him in my column this week. And actually the guy who corrected me then created an account just to tweet pictures of me and make fun of how fat I was.
Wow, boy, Manny,
so
take some notes.
Yeah, big shout to him. I did block him, unfortunately, as he said I ate too many chocolate chip cookies. which probably is the case. I can actually go for one of those right now. Matter of fact, Allie's Cookies, big shout in Emory Village. If you live in the Atlanta area, early recommendation. I would check out Allie's Cookies. Very, very good cookies. So that's it. That's on me, Coach. No, that was a mistake from last week. We'll try not to happen again. If you catch us making a mistake, we're happy to address it in this segment going forward. So, Nick, that wraps it up. Now it's time for Rants and Recommendations.
Yes.
Ding, ding, ding.
The grand return.
The segment is back after being shelved last week due to some concerns over corporate sponsorships and things of that nature.
A lot of red tape involved with that last week. A lot of red tape.
Right. So Nick, we'll let you start as you have a recommendation, which I believe can roll into a rant for me. So go ahead, take it away.
Yeah. Well, what can't you rant about? Well, here's the deal. As I mentioned, this past week, I went out to go see Jeffrey Okuda. You can check out his update and what he said about his official visit schedule on Rivals.com. There's a little bit of a video of some of his highlights on my Twitter feed if you feel so inclined to go check that out as well. Anyway, came home. I rent cars from a Avis that's in a Sears that's in a mall real close to my house, and on Saturdays at this in the mall parking lot they do a farmers market, and my wife came to go pick me up at the because otherwise I'd have to walk home after I dropped off the car, which I know you've been known to do. Not so much for me in my situation right now, but anyway, so we were just taking a walk around, and by the way, lots of stuff in Austin. I mean, 90% of the food here is pickled. So let me just get that could be a rant, but in this particular case, we stopped by one booth, and the company is a brand new company of a couple of guys cooking up some things based on family recipes. They're called Breed Loves, and we bought a couple of things. They had some samples out. One is a peach and nutmeg jam, which is really tasty, really sweet. I can't wait to put this on some croissants or something that I get later. Would go real good with some breakfast selections. And then also picked up a jar of Brazos relish. Brazos River, the famed river that runs through central Texas here, and a lot of things are named after. So Brazos relish, pickled onions and watermelon rinds, I believe, and a real tasty topper for any of your favorite sandwiches or lunch selection. So I might be having one of these in the morning, one of these in the afternoon, and I'll be sitting there sitting pretty with a smile on my face right afterwards. And they were so excited, that we came by and supported their local business. They gave us a little bit of a discount. The Brazos relish jar was the last one on the counter, so we scooped up the last one, and we felt like we won a prize. It was like going to the fair and winning that big stuffed animal at the one of the fair games or something like that.
Well, you'll have to tweet at them and let them know that you gave them a big shout out here. Maybe they'll be a sponsor of the show going forward. I was going to complain about farmers markets. I didn't realize you were buying those types of things. A lot of people think that the fruit and vegetables at farmers markets are, superior. I think, Nick, you mentioned your lovely wife. Her and I have gone round and round on, fruit and vegetable
trust me,
issues.
there's plenty of stuff at farmers markets that I got no interest in, and they were like, especially the craft booths and stuff like that. It's like the stuff that you see in people's front yard that you would never have in yours, and then they round it all up and try and sell it at the farmers market for like $10 or whatever. There was a little bit of that, and but I will say, going back to our days in Atlanta, the farmers market in Marietta Square was also a favorite Saturday and Sunday ritual of ours as well. Just add a little proximity to you.
I'm just a short jaunt to the DeKalb Farmers Market, which they're building a massive new complex that looks like it's the size of a Costco. So I would just advise that if you're at a farmers market in a park and the stuff you're buying has stickers on it, produce code stickers on it, it's the same thing they're selling at the grocery store. You're not getting anything better. Just walk on down to Publix or Krueger, Safeway, former employer of myself, and you're getting the same product. So don't think you're helping anybody by doing that. But I do encourage you to go and support local businesses like Nick did with the relish purchase. Boy, I'm having all kinds of problems spitting that out. I hate relish so much. I hate relish so much I can't even say it.
Well, it's not. Yeah, I'm with you. It's not real, but it's not. I wouldn't have got it if it was like normal relish. I'm not in on that. It's relish because of how, like, what it is, not like the like the method of making it. I guess not because it's like the relish.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of relish, Woody's tip of the week: if you're having a barbecue, make sure you have pickles, dill pickles on hand. You know, those are a staple item. If someone asks you for pickles and you say no, but I have relish, that's not relish. Is not pickles. Okay, so just put that under your hat. Little tip. Woody's tip of the week. New segment. We're gonna make that. All right.
If you have relish and not pickles, that's on you.
Right. Pickles are a staple item. Now, if you want to have relish and pickles, or if you want to have sweet pickles also, after you have dill, that's fine. But those are ancillary. We're talking about, it's like a figure skating routine. There's so many things you have to do, and then after that, you want to try a triple axel. Go right ahead. So, it's too bad this funny material is after no one is listening to the show anymore. My recommendation
I can put it right up in the front if we want. We can.
My recommendation for the week is the TV show The Good Place. It's on NBC, starring Kristen Bell. I believe I recommended it to Nick. We couldn't remember if I did it on the show or not. I hope I didn't. Either way, it's a Michael Schur TV show, which has been on previous hits such as Parks and Recreation and The Office. He's kind of one of the writers, the guys behind the scenes, and I really enjoy the show. I would highly recommend watching it. We had a lot of Jacksonville Jaguars references on the last episode, including a big shout to a friend of the show, Blake Bortles,
Yes.
who Nick loves, and I covered in high school, and he also frequents the family restaurant down in Oviedo, Florida, his hometown. So I would check that out. And guess what, Nick? This plug actually fits right in with Yahoo, who owns our lives and this podcast and everything associated with our likeness.
Yes.
Yahoo has a new deal with Hulu, where they are streaming now. You can watch network TV shows every week for free right on the website. And so I would advise go and check out Yahoo. Replace the screen product they have. You don't have to pay. You have to pay for everything now on Hulu, but it's free on Yahoo the week of the show airs. So go check it out, yahoo.com, and just look on the video section. You can find it there easily. So, Nick, that wraps it up for us. We're all we're all wrapped up. Another episode. We miss Rob Cassidy. We wish him luck as he makes his way to New York. Like I said, please subscribe on iTunes. Give a big shout to M. Deuce, who produces the music for the show. Nick, I actually got a music producer who sent us a new song this week. So guess what, M. Deuce? Better keep that fire I've been looking for coming my way, because people are trying to take your job every day.
Did he put word? Is there lyrics in it? Did he characterize us in the theme?
No, I wish he did. He just sent me an email that said, oh man, I'm trying to find it now. It's a lot of emails in my box. The Fever Beat for Woody Wommack is what it's called.
Oh, just for you, huh? All right.
Yeah, just for me. Sorry, guys. Sorry that they know he knows where the bread is buttered. So anyway, follow M Deuce on SoundCloud, M-Deuce. Thanks for listening.
Go Giants.